Hi there to all of you viewers of Equinoxe Television. It's 6 p.m. by our studio clock and it's time for the news in the English language. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Our major stories this evening. The barrister Alice Crom and SEO tussle seems far from being over as she has been summoned again by the SEO for the Police Division, Sidiak Bondo. On Vogo, the latter says this time around the barrister has enough time to answer present to his summons. Barrister Alice Crom had turned down the first summons, saying it was so urgent and she had other preoccupations. We will be telling you more in this news edition. And following allegations by Minister Paula Tanganji on illicit funding to non-governmental organizations in Cameroon, our reporters went finding out how NGOs should be controlled financially in the country. We also bring to you details in this newscast. Plus, the former mayor of the Boya municipality, Senator Bella Mokichas, criticizes government on the poor road networks in the country. Viewers, those are our major stories. Details in just a moment. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for the confidence always. We begin with the worries of the former mayor of the Boya municipality, Senator Bella Moki Charles, on the bad state of roads across Cameroon. Speaking at the just ended parliamentary session, Senator Bella Moki Charles criticized the report Cameroon government for failing to provide good road networks for its citizens. In his speech, which was termed a story, the senator says roads in the country have cost several lives. Let's now have the details with Lucille Yengu is here.
If you entered the class to make a story, you said, boys and girls, are you ready to hear my story? They will say, yes, what is your story about? My story is about roads.
Senator Bella Moki Charles spits fire while denouncing the dilapidated state of roads in the country. He was speaking at the just ended parliamentary session.
The question most Cameroonians have for you is that our ministers who are charged with the duty of taking care of the road network in our country, do they circulate in this country by air or by road? Look at, you cannot travel from economic capital to the national capital. You cannot travel to Kribi, which is to sell Cameroon the future of our nation.
He reiterates the concern of the Delegate General for National Security, Martin Bangangele, who equally expressed worries about the shabby roads leading to the southwest region.
Mr. Minister, a few days ago you came around with some explanations after the Delegate General for National Security spoke out about the road network in the country. Have you ever lost a relation because of bad roads, Mr. Minister?
As the 2025 presidential election approaches, Senator Bella Moki Charles questions the Minister of Public Works about what will motivate Cameroonians to maintain their confidence in the ruling party. Going further, he joined his voice to that of Anglophones who decry failed projects.
Mr. Minister, we saw you signing a document saying that there will be a road from Bikoko to West Coast Idi now. A contract was signed to plant a bitumen plant in Limbe. Till date, it is not there. The Limbe seaport, all Tico airport.
All these, according to Senator Bella Moki Charles, has led to underdevelopment in most regions.
The situation is...
From the southwest to the northwest, the people of the Misaje subdivision in the Ndunga Mantung division of the northwest region say life has become extremely difficult or hard since the start of the crisis. They are decrying limited access to good roads, electricity infrastructure, and other social amenities which have contributed in crippling the economy in the Ndunga Mantung division. They were speaking during a council budgetary session in Kambe. Immaculate Fogwe with the details.
Mesa J subdivision in Dongamantum division northwest region is among the many areas in Anglophone Cameroon that has been hit by the over 8-year-old armed conflict. Added to the security challenges, poor farm-to-market roads, insufficient social infrastructures and lack of electricity are some of the major challenges faced by inhabitants.
First of all, we need a health center Secondly, we need the rehabilitation of the water that was destroyed by the construction of the road, the ring road. And we also need the construction of the secondary school that was created 10 years back. We look at the national grid connecting Kambe and Miseje. There is no light. And we also need that there should be an extension from Miseje to Dumbu, extension from Miseje to Chako, extension from Miseje to Akweto, or from Kambe to Akweto.
All these problems have greatly contributed in crippling the economy, leading to a 28% decrease in the council's budget, which moves from 787,177,281 recorded in 2024 to 567,542,471 recorded in 2025. A councillor explained reasons for the significant drop in income.
Revenue collections in the field is still very low. Citizens are refusing to pay their tax and generating money locally based on our socio-political problem that is happening within our region. Things are becoming a little bit up.
While urging the state to intervene by supporting councils which are crippling, the councillors equally urged the population to pay their taxes. Reviewing some of the projects carried out in 2024, the mayor, Samik Fokemba, saluted the efforts made by the population while promising to take into consideration their plights.
Now we move over to one of our big stories. We told you a while ago that the Barrister Alice Come SDO tussle seems far from being over. After Barrister Alice Come snapped, somehow someone served her on Tuesday by the Senior Divisional Officer for the Woes Division for breaking the seal at the gate of the Redhac head office in Bali, Yarinzwala. Asilia Mvogo Marie gives her a second chance to present herself. That would be on Monday, December 16, for an exchange on the affair at hand. He provides enough time, according to him, and conveniences so that the Redhac board chair does not fail again to show up and advance justifications. Innocent Aze.
After snubbing the convocation served her by the Senior Divisional Officer for the Woes Division of the Litowa region on Monday, December 9, 2024, over the breaking of the administrative seal at the door of Redhac head office in Bali Douala, same day, the Senior Administrative Officer, Mvogo Siliak Marie, reconvokes Barrister Alice Come, co-board chair of Redhac, in his office in Bonanjo on Monday, December 16 at exactly 11 a.m. Speaking to Barrister Alice Come, she explains why she rubbished the convocation to exchange on the crucial subjects with the SDO.
My office is near, very near in Bonanjo of the office of Mr. Prefect. Can you tell me how he can send me a summon through Chefferie Supérieure du Canton Bel? No, he wants to put me under his feet. So he sent this summon there, and they had some time to reach me. And this reached me less than 1 hour from the hour I should be there.
The new convocation served her on December 11, according to the SDO, gives her enough time to prepare and answer present to clear all obstacles which could be used as justification for not showing up on Monday, December 16. Mvogo Siliak Marie requested Barrister Alice Come to bring along any form of identification document, if not in possession of a national identity card. In the new convocation, the Senior Administrative Officer also assures that, as a civil servant, he will leave his office and descend the staircases to meet Barrister Alice Come and her delegation for the exchange if climbing the staircases is a constraint. With the right channel taken and the dispositions put in place, it is still unclear if the bittered Redhac board chair will show up. Similar convocation was served Maximilian Gombe, Executive Director of Redhac, for the same affair.
Still on that tussle, the stern outing of Barrister Alice Come and her vigorous exchanges with the Senior Divisional Officer for the Woes Division has left a paradigm shift in the public approach management of the Senior Administrator. That is, according to observers, Barrister Alice Come's fairness or firmness also imposed the respect of the highly advocated Mobility Act to the benefit of the elderly and people with reduced mobility in Cameroon. Let's now have the details with Fomi Armstrong Sander.
The firm exchanges between the Senior Divisional Officer for the Woes Division and human rights lawyer Barrister Alice Come, board chair of the Redhac Human Rights Group, has no doubt left a remarkable change in the approach of the senior administrator that will be of mass benefit, according to observers. One of the first visible changes concerns administrative summons amid citizens' complaints of excessive long delays in receiving summons. Faced with these criticisms and the intervention of Barrister Aliscom, the SDO resulted in summons within a more reasonable time frame, thus facilitating citizens' access to public services. Another important measure, the systematic requirement for the National Identity Card, has been replaced and made more flexible with the requirement for any other valid identification document. This measure, long requested by citizens and rights associations, aimed to make administrative procedures less restrictive and take into account the realities on the ground where many people do not have up-to-date national identity cards. Concerning the inaccessibility of administrative buildings for the elderly and people with reduced mobility, concrete measures have been taken to improve the reception of people with reduced mobility. The modification of the ground floor of the SDO's office in Bonanjo Douala also saw the light of the day after Barrister Aliscom's objection. The move now meets the standard and requirements of the Accessibility Act, addressing a long-standing issue. Observers insist that these changes would not have taken place without the vigorous outing of Barrister Aliscom. The lawyer who campaigns for the protection of citizens' fundamental rights addressed the senior divisional officer for the Vuri division through legal channels to stoutly denounce these dysfunctions. Faced with the scale of our actions, the SDO for the Vuri division finally gave in, not without insisting that Barrister Aliscom should be summoned by a bailiff.
Announced the disagreement between the Minister for Finance and Minister for Territorial Administration and some civil society leaders persists over funding. We went to find out facts about how non-governmental organizations are funded or should be funded in Cameroon. We are told that government controls or should control the funding process of such organizations. Babila Jonathan tells us more.
Comme Redhac, vous ne devez pas recevoir un franc venant de l'étranger.
Contrary to this statement of the Minister of Territorial Administration suggesting that civil society organizations like the Network of Human Rights Defenders in Central Africa are prohibited by the 1990 laws from receiving external funding, the Executive Director of Nous, droit de l'homme says,
les subventions, ce sont des fonds contrôlés par les pouvoirs publics.
The funding of right organizations like ours is done via subventions from Cameroon's partners.
Les subventions ont une provenance qui est connue.
The donors are known and the subventions to civil society organizations are controlled by the government.
Les subventions proviennent soit des accords bilatéraux avec les partenaires du Cameroun.
Subventions come from bilateral and multilateral agreements with Cameroon's partners like the United Nations, intergovernmental organizations, or well-known foundations. On the other hand,
c'est lorsqu'il s'agit des dons ou des legs qu'on peut questionner la provenance.
Gifts and aid would be subject of questioning.
Ça ne nous concerne pas du tout la question des financements illicites.
Cyril dismisses the argument of illegal funding raised by Territorial Administration Minister Tanganji Paul to justify the suspension of some civil society organizations.
La COBAC aussi a mis beaucoup de barrières, beaucoup de règles.
She highlights the numerous and stringent rules of the Central African Banking Commission to prevent the flow of illegal funds.
We will be talking more on that again in the second part of the news. Now let's move on to something else. The fate of the divisional officer of Idabato and the council staff kidnapped with him some time ago remains hanging in the balance or on the fence. Civil society leaders decry the fact that up to now, government has not succeeded in setting them free from their kidnappers. Babila Jonathan once again reports.
They have been in captivity for more than 2 months. The divisional officer of Idabato and the council staff of that part of the southwest region of Cameroon were abducted on October 1, 2024. Days after the divisional officer was kidnapped, the governor of the southwest region, Benau Kaliabilai, issued a 72-hour ultimatum on October 8, 2024 for the DO to be freed. Addressing administrative, traditional, local and religious leaders, The governor described the DO's kidnapping as unacceptable and called on indigenes and foreigners living in Idabato to ensure the safe return of Divisional Officer Ewane Roland. 53 days into the kidnapping of Idabato Divisional Officer Ewane Roland, government assured commitment to his release. In a statement dated November 22nd, the Minister of Communication and Government spokesperson Rene Emmanuel Sadi confirmed that the divisional officer Roland Ewane and Idabato Council employee Etongo Ismail were kidnapped by armed pirates from a neighboring country. After condemning the kidnapping, Minister Rene Emmanuel Sadi said, I quote, everything possible is being done to preserve the life of the divisional officer of Idabato as well as that of his colleague and to obtain a happy outcome of this unfortunate affair. End of quote. A few days back, the Territorial Administration Minister Atanganji Paul was responding to questions at the National Assembly when he reiterated efforts being made by the government to free the captives. As of now, the efforts have not restored the freedom of the division officer and staff of the Idabato Council. It was the first time he was making a public statement about it. Right defenders have been lambasting the government over poor management of the situation.
In foreign news, at least 150 people have been killed in bombings in Sudan as clashes between the army and paramilitary forces continue. Meanwhile, elsewhere in Syria, Syrian opposition forces that stormed into Damascus and sent out Uzbek President Bashar al-Assad to Russia visited a mosque he used to attend. A foreign page roundup with Cedric Chakutu.
At least 176 people have been reported dead and dozens injured after a series of airstrikes hit Sudan's capital on Monday and Tuesday. The attack has been linked to the Rapid Support Forces, who have been waging a war with the Sudanese army in the 20-month conflict. The first attack took place on Monday when an airstrike hit a busy market in the town of Kapkabiya. Elsewhere, clashes erupted on Wednesday morning in a southern town in Somalia between the country's federal government forces and regional troops of the state of Jubaland amid escalating tensions over a disputed regional election. Details of the fighting and the number of casualties remained unclear because of a telecommunications blackout imposed in the area. The clashes underscore a deepening rift between the federal government and Jubaland's administration, raising fears of further instability in the strategically significant region near the Kenyan border. And in Syria, the leader of the Syrian opposition forces that stormed into Damascus and sent ousted President Bashar al-Assad fleeing to Russia, visited a mosque he used to attend as a youngster in the suburbs of Damascus on Tuesday. Inside the Imam al-Shafi Mosque in the neighborhood of Mezer, Abu Mohammed al-Jolini, who now asks to be called by the birth name Ahmed al-Shara, praised the efforts of his fighters, who, he said, took charge of Syria without any foreign support or interference, also noting that all former colonizers had failed to control the country.
Let's now talk sports. The opening ceremony of the 8th edition of the National Games dubbed the SIAD is taking place at the Esplanade, the Yaoundé City Council. Over 1,000 athletes are participating at the games drawn from the 10 regions of the country. Details with Sabanji Gabriel.
Different disciplines, amongst them athletics, badminton, boxing, weightlifting, judo, wrestling, volleyball, basketball, handball, and the King Sports football will be part of the National Games dubbed Dixiat. The games that began in 2008 in the country's political capital returns to its birthplace with more disciplines included in the 2024 edition. The National Games that started in Yaoundé this Thursday entered in the history books as the first in whose opening ceremony was not held in the stadium but at the Esplanade of the Yaoundé City Council. The town of Yaoundé is now filled to capacity as all 10 delegations from the different regions are set for hostilities. According to the officials of the Cameroon National Olympics and Sports Committee, the national games dubbed Dixiat will be an avenue for them to select future flag bearers of Cameroon in continental and international events. Over 1,000 athletes, as well as their coaches, are taking part in the 2024 edition of the Dixiat, which will run for 10 days from December 11 to 21, 2024.
And that does it for the first part of the news, viewers. Let's now move on to talking points. Our guest tonight on Talking Point is Chair Evans. He is a jurist and also a civil society actor. Thank you, Mr. Evans, for accepting to be our guest tonight. Now, as a civil society actor, what is your appraisal of the tussle between the Minister for Territorial Administration, the STO, and Barrister Alice Kam following the shutting down of some human rights organizations like Redhac, Reach Out, and Offer Orange that was on the instructions of Minister Paula Tanganji?
Madam Annabi, it's always a pleasure being here with you. It should be noted that Minister Tanganji, he's actually working within the confines of the law somehow, because when we look at the reasons for the closure, when you read the press release which was sent out, it is evident he has spelled out the reasons for which these NGOs have been closed. For instance, he is saying that there is alleged money laundering. He's saying that there is funding of illegal activities. He also did mention the fact that there is lack of accountability. So all of these put together are some of the reasons why Minister Tanganji has ordered for the closure of these NGOs. However, my question to Minister Tanganji is this. Did he, that's the Minat boss, did he get in touch with these NGOs to notify them that, okay, of late we have been experiencing some illegal activities within your organization, and it's time we check them? Did he also, through a written or an oral statement, request, information from these organizations to be sure? Because at this point, we can call all of these things mere allegations, because as it stands, only a competent court of law is able and capable to validate all the accusations that were passed by Minister Tanganji Paul. So in a nutshell, he has given out the reasons for the closure, but though with so much questions still hanging on the air. But we cannot conclude this without mentioning the fact that the closure of these NGOs by Minister Tanganji, it has a significant consequence on the Cameroonian people, especially the people of the English-speaking region, wherein these organizations or these NGOs played an active role. Because these NGOs, some of them, they help in humanitarian aid. They provided food, shelter, and why not education. Some of them even sponsored, help to set up business to the local population. And some of them, they served as counseling to the young ladies. In fact, they had a rundown of activities that they were doing. So since they have been closed, we can start picturing the atmosphere of these people who relied on this NGO for survivors.
Ivan, since you're already talking of consequences, we know that these NGOs have been rendering some services to the local underprivileged people, not only in the northwest and southwest, but also in the far north, the east, and even major cities like Douala and Yaoundé, where destitutes are also present. What can be some of the aftermath of this move by the Minister of Territorial Administration, which could also be termed as repression on human rights organizations?
Thank you. I was even trying to limit it just to northwest and southwest, because as of now, they are so much in need of these organizations. But if we need to widen the scope, taking it to littoral and even why not the far north, you bear with me that the activities of these NGOs, they cannot be overemphasized as far as their impact is concerned on the citizens. Because, for instance, these NGOs, they play a very, very important role in the humanitarian aid, as I earlier mentioned. They provide food, go to the far north. People are suffering. There are some of the NGOs that even help to see that the vulnerable people there, they get what we call a balanced diet. You get it? Without which they would be dealing more with starchy food. They also help in providing shelter, construction of bridges. Some of them also help in giving allowances and helping parents to set up good businesses that from there they can be able to cater for their children. Some of them even help with medical equipments in hospitals. In fact, their deeds are so enormous. And closing down these NGOs, I repeat, it is going to have a negative impact on all the population, be it the ones in the northwest, southwest, littoral, far north, extreme, wherever they are, they will feel the effect of the loss of these NGOs.
Coming back now to the outing recently of Minister Atanganji on the operation of religious institutions and churches. He precised that churches without authorization from President Probia, that is, without a presidential decree, should close down before he comes for them. What's your take on that other declaration by Minister Paul Atanganji on the operation of religious institutions in Cameroon?
Honest, most of these churches nowadays, they are becoming more to a threat to the community, to the local population even. And if we have to look at the outing of Minat Boss on the authorization of churches, it is not a novelty. You get it? This thing happened sometime in, I think it was 2015, wherein we had almost 34 churches that were closed. And after they appealed and they pleaded, the ban was uplifted. So it is not a novelty. It has been happening. The law is clear on that. The preamble of the Cameroon Constitution, it of course, it gives the latitude for freedom of religion. We also moved to the 1990 law on freedom of association. It also lays down modalities for the creation or the opening of religious groups. So if you think that you want to bring in a church, or you want to open a religious group, because that law does not even mention anything like a church, it focuses on religious groups. So if you think that you want to open a religious group, which the church of course falls under, then it is incumbent on you to do the needful, follow the right procedure that has been laid down by the law to open them. And if we must even highlight the procedure here, it's simple. You must file a request to the Minat office asking authorization for you to open your church in quotes, and the Minat has the latitude to decide on whether to grant acceptance or not. That is to say, it can recommend that group to the head of state, who can then decide that, okay, Minat has recommended, and as such, we are granting authorization for you to function smoothly. And your file that you are depositing at the Minat office, it must contain your activities. That's the plan of action. What are the things you want to do? It must carry the name of the officials of your church and the respective roles that each of them are going to play.
And now, before we go advance, don't you think a control on the operation of religious institutions and churches can be read as limiting freedom of worship in Cameroon?
We cannot submit that it is actually limiting freedom of worship. You get it? Freedom of worship entails that you have a right to worship and form any religious group of your choice or worship under it without any external form of repression. But that is not the case. They are simply telling you that come and register, come and legalize, come and make known this association or this religious grouping of yours. It is simple. We cannot have churches parading the place and we don't have records of them. We don't have records of their activities. We don't even know who are those pilots in these churches. So it is very important that they make known the fact that they are existing. They have not limited the churches, or they are not giving them some kind of instructions how they should go about their preachings or how they should go about collecting their tithes or offerings in church. No, The focus is that get yourself authorized, get yourself legalized. So to me, I don't see legalization as any form of repression or limitation of the freedom of association.
Thank you, Chair Evans, for honoring our invitation tonight, and hope to have you some other time. Viewers, thank you so much for always being with us. Our programs continue. Equinoxe comes up in exactly 30 minutes with Serge Learning and the news in the French language at 8 p.m. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television. Bye-bye for now, and see you again tomorrow, same time, God willing.
Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image, nous rendons compte.
C'est déjà Noël. L'aventure humaine dure depuis 21 ans et cette année, on remet ça. Noël en cœur se mobilise une fois de plus pour apporter de la joie aux orphelins à travers sa caravane du bonheur. Comme chaque année, ils sont nombreux qui vous tendent la main, un geste pour un sourire sur leur visage. Alors faites parler la machine de la solidarité et faites vos dons au service commercial Equinoxe jusqu'au 15 décembre 2024. Noël en cœur, c'est encore et toujours une initiative de radio et télévision Equinoxe.
De lundi à vendredi sur Equinoxe Télévision.
Bienvenue sur le plateau Equinoxe, votre décryptage quotidien de l'actualité de lundi à vendredi, 19h-21h, 18h-20h, en temps universel.
Lorsqu'on aspire au changement dans un pays, l'une des choses qu'il faut privilégier, c'est l'autorité de l'État et le respect des institutions républicaines.
Oui. Des revendications qui sont mises sur la table aujourd'hui avec la crise anglophone. Il y a plusieurs tendances, mais on a l'impression que le gouvernement s'est acharné sur la tendance séparatiste et a complètement oublié la tendance fédéraliste.
Est-ce qu'il est possible de faire le permis de conduire dans l'arrière-pays? Est-ce que l'État s'est rassuré qu'il y ait des auto-écoles? Vous voyez, il est toujours dans un esprit de guéguerre. On ne comprend pas comment on est en train d'amener les mototaximens de discuter dans le